DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. BYU is open training camp. We got to talk with Kelly Poppinga, assistant coach. Do you remember when you first met Kelly?
Yeah.
How long ago was it?
Well, we went up and to rope some calf in Evanston.
Did not.
They're hanging out on the Poppinga family farm.
Yes. An exaggerator, if nothing else. Jason Comedy.
When he was on the ball club way back when. And his brother, I think it was his brother's older, is also psycho. And I can remember Kelly telling me one time, I had to call him up, and it was an important family matter, and I had to tell him, now, Brady, just start breathing and just relax here. I loved Brady. I loved interviewing him. And Kelly's such an approachable dude. You can see why he would have success on the recruiting circle all the time.
Very personable.
He really is, yeah. He's so easy to communicate with and all. And you can see why he's going to be and is successful as a coach. So, I mean, it's been over – when did he play there?
06-07. Yeah. I'm looking at it.
So
he was at Utah State in 03-04.
Correct.
Came down to BYU.
Yeah, and Brady came. I think his other brother might have played at Utah State as a tight end, and then Brady just came directly to BYU. Talking to his parents a long time ago.
So we spoke with Kelly about this year's teams, the difference he's seen, because he coached at BYU. He was the linebackers coach 2011 and 12, and then safeties and linebackers through 15, and then he went to Virginia with Bronco. Talked to him about the changes he's seen in BYU over the time. There were a lot of different topics to hit. Here is Kelly Poppinga with PK and I. We're here with Kelly Poppinga, defensive ends coach for BYU. Everyone, literally everyone is talking about how do the Cougars put more pressure on the quarterback. Can you go to the grocery store, go to the gym, go down the street without somebody stopping you and asking you that?
I just got the same question from two other guys. So, and honestly, at the end of the day, for us last year it was stopping the run. So I think everything correlates to stopping the run. Like, if we can stop the run better, we are going to get after the quarterback better, right? Being able to control the line of scrimmage and be able to dictate when they're going to throw the ball, that's going to help us out. What happened last year, we're playing from behind a lot, not controlling the line of scrimmage, and then we can't get after the quarterback, right? And then it's a team effort too as well, where, we got one guy in Tyler Batty that can get after the quarterback, and then we had some other guys that weren't as consistent, but I feel really good in Isaiah Bagna, Logan Latui, John Nelson on the inside. We got a couple new guys that we're waiting to have displayed to Cougar Nation too as well, which we're really excited about. But I just feel like it all goes back to stopping the run. And I think any defensive coach will always tell you that. If we can control the line of scrimmage and dictate when they're going to throw the ball, we'll be way better.
How about just the fact that everybody is in the system now a year, Jay Hill, you, because it was new last year, the players, you with them with you. How much difference can that make?
Yeah, it's already been. You go back to spring ball and even into our winter conditioning and just the attitude our guys had from the time they came back from winter break. And went right into winter conditioning. Coach Phyllis having a whole year with these guys now, our strength coach. The mindset is completely different from a year ago. And just the understanding of the defense, like you said, is completely different. They know who we are. They know who Coach Hill is. They know how we, our personality is a little bit better. And just we got pretty much everybody back. And, we lose Eddie Heckert and Cam Garrett and a couple other guys, but I believe we're as deep as we've ever been at DB from what I can remember at any team that I've been on at BYU. And just the talent that Coach Guilford's recruited there, I think it gives us a great shot to play as good as coverage as I think we could play. So I'm excited about that. But ultimately, I just believe we have a great group of guys, and they're just hungry, and I think they're very motivated to meet the expectations they have. They don't give a care. We don't care about the expectations outside the building. We have high expectations of the building, and now it's being able to put our actions equal to those expectations, and I think today was a good start to that.
For years, the Big 12 was spread the field, quarterbacks, a lot of high-octane offenses, and a lot of 49, 42 games. But talking to people with so many running backs coming back this year who are accomplished in the league, is that rep outdated a little bit, you think?
Yeah. Well, I think that was the biggest surprise that we had as a team and as a coaching staff. Coming out of the Big 12, in playing those games, every team had a great running back. Every team had a great run game, and it wasn't as much throwing the ball around as everybody thought. I thought it was way more physical than it was going to be. And for those new teams coming in, I think that's one thing that they're going to be, a little taken back from. It's going to be more physical than what I think most people think it is, because they got that reputation, right? Spread around, throw the ball 40, 50 times a game, these shootouts. For us, those teams were physical. And shoot, we didn't even play one of the more physical teams in Kansas State who we get at home this year. So it'll be, it's going to be a challenge, but it's going to be fun. And that's what you want. In the game of football, you want to play tough, physical football, as a defensive guy at least. And so we're excited about that challenge.
It seems as the year progressed, the team got a little bit better. Obviously, you fell short of what your goals. How much at the end, when games were close, right down to the end, overtime, whatever they may be, is buildable as far as transferring over this year, so you're not starting from scratch, you're continuing what you developed last season?
Yeah, sometimes I think you got to go through those heartaches to be able to grow and develop. And so, as close as we were last year in the Oklahoma State game, even in the Texas game, the way we competed in that game, I think it gave our guys confidence, and I think it gave them that hope and that ability that they can compete with anybody. But at the same time, those hurt, man, because those games were games that we could have won any of those games. And so I think just getting that experience and our guys understanding what it's now going to take, I think it's brought that urgency, like I talked about before, more urgency in the offseason, the way they prepared, not just in the weight room and on the field, but in the film room, the way they've taken care of their bodies nutritionally. I've been impressed with these guys, and I think it's been great leadership from Tyler Batty, great leadership from Chase Roberts on the offense. I think we have really good veteran leaders, and whenever I've been around a great team, that's what you have. And so we have the makings for it. Now we got to put everything on the field.
There have been a lot of changes in college football in the time you've been doing this. I mean, conference realignment, TV deals, NIL, transfer portal, and we're barely scraping the surface of the changes. And you were here at BYU. You went to Virginia, saw ACC, Power 5 football. When you come back and you see the investment and the way BYU is doing things with staff, facilities, travel, everything, are you a little surprised at the leap forward the Cougars have taken in commitment over time?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's been from the last time I was here in 2015 to now, and even what I saw when I was in the ACC, the resources that we have here are as good as anything I've been around and anything I've heard of as well. I mean, I got friends that are coaches at USC and at Oregon and these other places, and I think the NIL at those places are maybe a little bit better, but man, the resources we have nutritionally and in other areas is as good as anywhere in the country. And so Kalani and our boosters have done a great job stepping up. And just, man, you go to our game day atmosphere, that's as good as anywhere in the country. I don't care what anybody says, you go into that stadium and just the things that we're doing throughout the game to create that environment, it's as good as anywhere. And so I think that's just a sign of big-time football. And when you get those resources, not just the money and the NIL to the players, but also the nutritional part and these other aspects of sleeping and just other training things that we get in the training room. Man, there's so many things. Our guys are so freaking spoiled, man. It's unbelievable the things that they get. But it's just giving them that next extra edge to help compete on the field.
When you left, I don't want to say you were critical. I would say you were honest. And we did an interview with you on the way out, and I remember you saying to us, well, that's a tough question, but I'm going to answer it honestly. And obviously you felt like it wasn't up to par where it is now. How much then, since you've had that for a little bit, has been able to be beneficial on the recruiting trail?
Yeah, I think recruiting here now compared to when I was here before it's completely different. And I think that showed last year. We signed one of the best classes that BYU's ever had. And we beat the school up north and a number of recruits,
that's Utah for people who don't know.
And and I told these guys in the past, there's some guys that we beat them in that we would have never beat them before if we were still independent and still had the resources that we had before. And so I think recruiting and what we got, our fruits from recruiting, show the commitment and the resources that BYU and the administration's put in. It's helped us land a next level talent, and that's just got to continue to go forward.
Yeah.
When BYU was in the WAC in the Mountain West, they're playing San Diego and a lot of times Fresno, and they were scheduling non-league games against the California Pac-12 schools. And as an independent, they built good relationships with USC and Stanford. And obviously, there's a lot of church members, a lot of kids who grew up dreaming of playing for the Y in California, you're going to lose a lot of those games. Maybe you'll have one here and there, but how much does that impact recruiting? How much do you have to pivot to Texas, which is something we were already seeing a little bit of anyway?
Yeah, we got some great players out of Texas this last year, but I think California is always going to be one of our top areas to recruit because just the number of football, the quality of football that's played there, the membership of the church that's there. But I do think not playing games there is going to hurt a little bit. And so, yeah, there's other things that we're going to have to do, fan fests and getting out there and doing community service and other things with our players, which we've done. But there's nothing like playing a game there. And so I don't know what it's going to be like if Tom's going to be making a commitment with, UCLA or USC here in the future, doing some home and homes and how that's going to work out. But I do know that is something that we have to do is recruit the state of California, just how good it's been for us in the past.
You look at some of these great programs, and they've got the on-field coaches, but then they're just packed with what we call analysts or recruiting advisors or whatever they may be, and you guys are getting better on that. One of the guys you have is Gary Anderson, who's got over 30 years of coaching experience. I know he's helping you in specific, but he's also helping the defense in general and preparing for opponents once you get going in the season for the next week. How much is that going to help?
Oh, it's been awesome, man. And it's been awesome just to see the guy wearing blue and with the Y on his chest. That's been sweet, right? So all those Ute fans up there are probably like, what in the heck is going on with this guy? But honestly, the time that he's been here since spring ball to now, man, I've learned a ton from him, and he knows this defense as good as anybody. I mean, he taught it to Coach Hill, and obviously Coach Hill's tweaked it a little bit since then. But there's some ideas that he's brought in that we didn't have a year ago, and it's just because of the experience that he has. And the things that I've learned from him and the things that Sione Puja's learned from him and the combination of us working with him is just going to, I think, take our D-line to the next level.
There is Kelly Poppinga, BYU assistant coach. He caught your ear there.
Well, I like what he said. They're beating T-Sun for some recruits.
The school up north,
yeah.
T-Sun.
Yeah. T-Sun.
Yeah.
Not
Okay.
C-Sun, Cal State
No,
Northridge.
but T-Sun, I like
Right.
it.
Right. I think that's important. And I don't think they were getting bludgeoned for a decade.
Lose and lose and lose again.
The obvious difference was stark. Anybody could see it, right? You went independent and they went to the promised land. And today is their last day in the promised land officially. They go to the Big 12 tomorrow. And recruiting, you listen to Whittingham, he only drills it into your head every chance. It's all about recruiting. And so they've got that situation there where maybe they can start winning. And according to Poppinga, they beat T-Sun for some recruits.
T-Sun, you're going to make that stick. Seemed like he was echoing the unprecedented quote that we were talking about a few years ago. They have more bodies, they have better compensated people, they're getting into all the details with nutrition and sleep and travel and all that stuff.
Yes, that's all true. All
but
true.
Experienced
Absolutely true.
analysts, another set of eyes that can work ahead because it's not distracting. They can be better prepared when they start game week.
Right. That was one of Gary's duties last year. I don't know how many people knew it. He was doing it last year. He was doing it from his residence in Logan. This year, he's on the practice field with the players, with the coaches, and adding whatever he sees in practice, and then, of course, being able to scout ahead so they can get a jump on what they're doing there and all that stuff, particularly with their Sunday issues. And so with that in mind, yeah, the thing about that, though, is they have put in the administration, whoever's in charge of that, has put in a lot more into the program than it was before. But with that, you got to have the results.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's the investment. Nobody wants to invest more and then get the same old, same old. Everybody wants to win.
Yeah, exactly. So these guys are being compensated in a manner that BYU has never done, but I also can argue that there's pressure on these guys in a manner that has never been applied at BYU, knowing that any coach in any situation has pressure to win. We've seen high school guys get replaced for not winning. Seems a little silly at that level, but that's what they do. So certainly at their level, it's right there with the pros, and so they've got to get going here. And talking to people, I've heard the statement, "We want to be here in January."
Yes.
Yeah. And that got to have wins. So you can't just beat T-Sun in recruiting. You got to beat T-Sun on the field. And, they did the last time a couple years ago. We'll see what happens this year. I would imagine they would be minimum a touchdown underdog. Well, that's a long ways away. We'll see what happens when we get there. And there are probably going to be a bunch of games that they're not going to be favored in. So you look at their schedule, the obvious ones, the Houston and ASU, they've got to win those games, and then they've got to knock off some teams that right now doesn't look like they would be expected to knock off. But who would have thought they had Oklahoma on the ropes, and then they threw that pick that changed everything. So it's not outrageous. But Oklahoma wasn't all that good last year, right? What was their record? What did they finish with?
I want to say 7-5, but
is that what it was?
I don't know.
Yeah, and I've had multiple BYU people bring up the Texas game as if they were right there. I didn't really see that myself, but I've had multiple guys.
Feel like they were going to win that game.
Well, it felt like the level of competition that they provided.
Oklahoma's 10-3 last year. 7-2 in conference. Tied Oklahoma State for second.
Yeah, because it was his second year.
Yeah, it was his
Venables. The first year
that he struggled.
They were 6-7. Second year, they got it going on a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, those last two games against Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, they were both 10-win teams that went 7-2 in conference.
Yeah. Right. And then obviously the Cougars were there to win both of those.
Yeah, they had
games.
a big lead in the Oklahoma State game.
Yeah. Right. And they've got to figure out ways to close games better, obviously, and then their depth has got to get better. Bywater's out, right? He was out the second part of last season, and I think they knew going into this season that
it wasn't getting better. He wasn't even close.
Right, and with that in mind, they've got to have depth. I think that's one of the reasons why they went and got Kelly to come down from Weber and install there. But these linebackers have got to, and everybody, they need depth everywhere. Because everybody has injuries. Some years are worse than others. For Utah, last year was really bad. I would think the law of averages and injuries would be better next year. And Kyle I did a thing with him, a question and answer spiel, a few weeks ago, and he was talking about that. Everybody knows that first Fiesta Bowl. Mm-hmm. They started the 22 that they started in the beginning. They started
kept them all season long.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then he said the Sugar Bowl, there was like maybe 2, 3. So they had a minimum number of injuries there. And you have to account for them. You don't know who's going to have them, but you're going to have them. And to be able to play there. So this is a huge season for BYU. They have got to get better than what they were. And if you just look at it record-wise, it's not like they're going from a 2-3 win season. It's not a total rebuild here like you've had Houston and ASU have, or in the midst of. They literally had a total rebuild. The Devils had their worst 3 years in 80 freaking years. It got no worse than that. So you have to allow them a reasonable amount of time. Well, BYU isn't in that situation. It isn't a total rebuild, not at all. But they need to get better.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Everything you missed in this show is coming up next.
Accessing.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G.
Ike Larson, safety for the Utah State Aggies.
I'm so impressed you stayed committed when Blake Anderson was still in place and came out of season and going into spring, and then you had an opportunity to go in the portal and you stayed committed to this staff as it remains. What has kept you in place through this?
I think just the trust and, the family that I built with Utah State and the new coaches. Coach Johnny, for example, he's been here, 4-6 months, and, our relationship is already great. Me and Coach A's relationship was like none other. I'll go over to his house if he needed anything, and he'll come to my house if he needed anything. So, it's hard, but I think that's what helps me at the end of the day is, having coaches that trust me and I trust them, that I know will put me out there when the game's on the line.
Catch Hans and Scotty weekdays from noon to 3 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Time for the 9 a.m. Slacker Radio headlines brought to you by Tim Dahle Mazda Southtown. Find your new Mazda at the south end of the valley at Tim Dahle Mazda Southtown. That's Tim Dahle Mazda Southtown in Sandy. PK, everybody recruits in Utah. Even the ACC is recruiting in Utah now.
Well, it's not the ACC.
Oh.
Don't be so misleading.
What do you know, Yak?
Westlake High School standout defensive end Nusi Tamoepeau just announced he is committed to the Stanford Cardinal.
Who are his finalists?
He had Utah and BYU amongst his 5 finalists. There was some hope that he would stay in state, but he's opted to go to Palo Alto.
Good for him. That's a great decision. I don't know how you just do anything but applaud. You put yourself in position to get a scholarship to Stanford through your academics, and then you also had the athletic thing. That's a dream come true, and I mean that in all sincerity.
Stanford, the golden ticket. Respect for that diploma all across the country.
Yeah.
Wherever you want to go. Stanford, ooh.
And if a kid does that, boy or girl, you just say, congratulations. Well done, young man, young woman.
The other thing that broke during the show, Gordon Hayward announced his retirement. He got traded to Oklahoma City, didn't really contribute much there, did a lot of sitting, and now he's done. 34-year-old Gordon Hayward hanging it up. Where did the years go?
Through the years.
Seems like it was just 14 years ago. He was launching a half-court shot that hit the glass, hit the rim, and didn't go in. That would have beaten Duke and won the national title at the buzzer.
Yes, and making an all-star team for us here.
2017 NBA All-Star.
I found a positive. Buck Bunnessy from Utah. Congratulations, G-Time. Have a great rest of your life.
We'll get to this in the next segment, but that is going against the grain. Most people are moving on.
And that's scientific.
It is. It is science.
Really, and we know you people, you trust the science.
BYU star linebacker Ben Bywater hanging it up. Not even 50% recovered from nerve damage in his shoulder. He got hurt in the Kansas game last year, and it simply isn't responding. We hear all the time, you never know in football, you're always one play away from the end, and there it is for Ben Bywater.
Well, it's the same thing in life, man. You're 1 minute away from not being here.
And gone.
I don't know if I'll be here Sunday.
That a kid.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thanks, Shanahan. The most predictable story of the morning. Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers, wide receiver Garrett Wilson say that their animated conversations we saw on social media have been overblown. You didn't see that coming, did you?
It's such a cliche. They try to downplay it. You can count on it. Any type of interaction that isn't completely lovey-dovey. Oh, no, yeah, everybody does that. Yeah. When Jaime Hill screamed at a player and the player responded, oh, everybody does that. Yeah, and then 2 weeks later, Bronco fired him. Yeah, everybody does that. Except they don't. So you had a scuffle. Verbally, not physically. So what? That's what you should say. Everybody does it instead of saying, no, it's no big deal. Because then you just now we look for it and try to see other stuff. Whereas, yeah, we had an argument. I thought he should have done this. He thought I should have done that. We went at it a little bit. So what? That's the approach. It's more honest that way.
U.S. is 2-0 in Olympic basketball. Is that more of what you expected after that close 1-point exhibition game with South Sudan?
No worry in the stupid. Once you said exhibition, I was out.
103-84.
Yes.
They had a double-digit lead the whole second half. Had a big chunk of the first half.
That's all that matters.
They were in control. Bam Adebayo, 18 points to lead the team. They'll play Puerto Rico Saturday. First-place team in the group versus last-place team in the group. And then it's on to the quarterfinals, and then it gets interesting. Possibly. Jimmer Fredette and the USA 3-on-3 team going the other direction. 0-2 in pool play. Beaten by Poland 19-17. Looked like Jimmer Fredette had a trainer working on a groin injury at the end of the game. He didn't talk to the media on the way out, and they're 0-2. Bad start at the Olympics. They have 6 games in pool play.
Yeah, I didn't watch the game, but I saw him being attended to by the trainer, and she was working it, and he was grimacing. That doesn't look good.
No, it really didn't. He looked like he was in a lot of pain.
I'm talking about look good for the future in the moment. I don't think there was any question. but I didn't go
But
past
if it hurts
Kansas.
that much in the moment, is it going to be better today when they play twice and tomorrow when they play 2 more? It doesn't seem like it.
Exactly.
Yeah. At which point, the dream is over.
Well, they got other dudes on the team, right? Because
They do. They have 4 players for exactly the injury purpose. So we'll see if the other 3 guys can get her done. Jimmer was 2 of 15 shooting in that game. It was a struggle.
Well, law of numbers means he'll light it up if he's able to be healthy. If he's not, it's another story.
We talked a lot of football today. What would you like to tell the people about BYU after making the jaunt down to Provo for the first day of training camp?
Right now, they feel good about their football team to have the success needed to continue building. And I don't think it's hyperbole. I think it's true. I think it's true that they feel it. They're not trying to sell us anything.
Whether they can do it is another matter. But
Exactly.
they honestly, legitimately believe it right now.
They do.
I'd say that's fair, given the level of confidence from the handful of people I talked to yesterday. Some of them we talked to together, some separately.
Right.
But I think that was pretty consistent.
Yes. So we're not talking about winning the conference. We're talking about have a level of success that allows people to remain employed and continues to build. And they really, really believe that the recruiting now is going to get some momentum because of the situation they're in. And they weren't in that situation for over a decade. And
They got the Big 12 label now.
yeah, it was a tough sell. It's a much easier sell right now, particularly for in-state. And we've got Poppinga saying they're beating the school up north, T-Sun, for recruits. I mean, this is beating T-Sun is about nearly as important as the ability to sign Taysom.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
I see what you're doing there. A little wordplay.
They've got to get these kids. And you would think that there would be, they always used to deny it. Maybe when they were independent and all, we don't have the same recruiting areas and targets. I never really bought that. Because if I'm an in-state kid, particularly if I'm LDS and I'm okay with what BYU's about, I always thought before, you had to lean Utah. Now, you have to check out both earnestly and then decide which one is better suited for you. And then check out other ones, like this kid from Westlake is deciding Stanford is best for him. Well, good for that young man. Yeah, and that's really whatever they choose, especially now, it's not as pressurized a decision. I remember who was somebody way back when, Lou Holt's son, you're not making a 4-year mistake, you're making a 40-year mistake.
It's all one-year decisions now.
Yeah, right. So if it's such a big mistake, well, then you can turn around and leave and go to some other place. And that's the thing about that. Kenny Dillingham's been talking to that big time at ASU, get the bounce-back kid. They got stars in their eyes, and their program isn't near the level of what the programs here are in the state, not yet anyway. And so get the kid on the comeback, and who knows? I mean, BYU's done that because Kalani's done pretty well at that.
Bring him home.
Yeah.
Well, Utah's done it a few times too. I mean, it's common. Everybody knows now. Everybody knows now who was a Stanford kid who came back to Utah?
Damani.
Yeah.
But I think that was a situation. Stanford they had a coaching change. They were in the toilet. I don't necessarily think it was a football thing where I made the wrong choice. I got to get out of here, get myself in a better position. I think the situation around Damuni, I think I said Damani, but I think it's Damuni, changed. So I think it's a little bit different. But when you look at the transfer portal for Utah, they've been overwhelmingly successful. There's not that many. There have been a few who left that they don't want to leave. J.J. Jackson and Johnson, the quarterback. I think they would have preferred him stay, based on what they've told me in my face. And so with that in mind, but overall, they don't have a lot of kids leaving, and I think that there's no question the transfer portal for Utah has been a net positive, and I think that's the way you need to look at transfer portals these days. Did you gain more than you lost? You look at BYU basketball, and it looks like, they had some transfers, some nice players, but I think they gained more than they lost, and that's important.
All right, anything else you want to share with the people that we talked about today?
Today? No, I think we covered.
That's it. Now we know
everything that this show was about as far as that goes.
When we come back, your feedback, that's next. Stay with us.
And it's all over almost here.
Don't go nowhere.
TJ and PK, it is time now for your feedback today. What you have to say about today's show. Gordon Hayward, an hour ago, put up kind of a thank you note, shouting out his parents, his wife, his kids, his agent, and hanging it up. He's all done. Do you want the Jazz to bring Hayward back like they have brought back D. Will, Ostertag, etc.? LT, nope, I want nothing to do with him.
Cold-hearted, unforgiving. Jesus would be disappointed.
Nick, absolutely not. After what he did, leaving us high and dry, he's the least worthy player to get that kind of treatment. Teefers. Craig says, no thanks. JJ McIntack, has he called Gale yet? Call Gale, maybe he'll consider it. Shave.
Hello, Gale, this is Gordon. How are you? Good. Okay, bye. That covers it.
Shave. I don't want him to ruin any more of my holidays, David.
Okay, well, don't bring him out on Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Runderwear, only if Robin says it's okay. Skip, nope, the guy's not likable. He may have been 26 when he left, but he's 34 now, and his vibe is still the same.
Jeez.
Fly the W. I've never heard of this guy. Who is he? Oh, you've heard of him. Brian. With the emoji, the GIF. Nah, we good.
What an unforgiving society I live in.
Michael McCurdy. Yes, there's one. Somebody wants him back. And then Mac the Third. Sure. Not a lot of enthusiasm, but he's open to it. There are the two. Everybody else is looking forward.
Yeah, but the whole idea of bringing back players is you have to look backward.
Yep. Matt, bleep Gary Hayward. Gary?
Yeah. So bitter.
There is bitterness, yes.
His departure allowed Donovan Mitchell to flourish.
Yep. Although Michael says, I would bring him back and live my NBA dream viciously through him. I think he means vicariously. Wrong V word. I'm the same age. I also made a bad decision in my mid-20s and truly regretted it. Glad the person I wronged allowed me to make it right. Plus, one of the biggest what ifs. What if Gordon stays and we add Donovan Mitchell? Ooh.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment.
What might have happened?
Fair question to ponder. Yeah, I get it. Because they had some guys like Joe Johnson were aging out.
Right.
So you needed some new blood there. I think the team would have been good. I have no reason to think they wouldn't have been good.
But how good? Playoff good? Very good. They won a series that first year.
I think you have to look that and see who else is out there.
Well, the Warriors were rolling at that
Right,
point.
so you weren't going to beat them.
Right. They got to the second round. Maybe you could have won a few more regular season games and avoided them to the conference final. Right. But then what happens in the conference final? You lose to the Golden State Warriors.
Right, and that's part of it. And like I insist that Jazz team in the late 80s was capable of winning a title, but they ran into the Lakers.
Loaded.
Yeah. And I think that was the best Jazz team. I think that team was better than the 90s teams that got there. Some of it is circumstantial in terms of who you play and who's available on the other team and all that stuff that goes into it. Unless you're like the Lakers and the Celtics back then and the Warriors and the Bulls, it didn't matter who you played because you were just better than everybody.
Loaded.
Yeah. And sometimes we have teams. I don't think we got a team like that right now in the league.
Now, what they've done raising what you can pay star players while putting on that, it's not a hard cap, but it's close with the way they tax you and then double down on it.
Yeah.
It makes it hard because you've got to pay your best players, and then you don't have enough to put the rest of the team together and make it dominant. So when you're healthy and everything lines up, you get one, but then, as we can see, you can't get another.
Right, which is good and bad for the league, but I think that's where we're at. And occasionally, and we'll see, it'll probably happen again at some point, there'll be a team that is clearly above everybody else, and they're the team you've got to beat. And if you're in your conference, you're probably not going to get out of it. And that's the way we have it, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, we have that right now in the AFC West.
Good luck beating Kansas City.
Yeah.
But this too shall pass.
Yeah.
Nobody wins forever.
No.
Although they might win for a while longer.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. If injuries don't factor in and all that, yeah, they look like they can do that. And good for them. They got it going on. Right. And away they go. But I think that Jazz team could have been certainly better, but I don't think they were going to beat the Warriors because obviously no one was.
In their heyday.
In their Hayward day.
Good one. All right, DJ PK, there is your feedback. That'll do it for us. Thanks for joining us today. Jake and Ben are coming up next right here on The Zone.